remotely controlling these stations' computers.
They used a piece of automated malware to do that, which is a sign that they will probably want to use that again. That looked like a kind of practice round to develop a capability that they wanted to have to use globally.
This set a new precedent. People theoretically knew that cyber weapons could be used against electricity grids, which is like the lifeblood of our economy and society, but it hadn't actually happened until this 2015 attack. These are just a few examples, but they're examples that show how cyber weapons became employed in a war context between countries. It wasn't just hackers trying to steal money. It was countries trying to hurt their enemy, trying to demonstrate their capabilities, to deter their enemy, to let them know that they have power over them. A tool of war, of national power. And indeed, in 2010, the US acknowledged this very overtly by adding the US Cyber Command as a new department to the military. Cyber war was here, and it was here to stay.
Today, we face threats that have increased in sophistication, magnitude, intensity, volume, and velocity.
But here's what's crazy is that these aren't weapons. These aren't like missiles, where a country has a monopoly over buying and using them. Cyber weapons are just bits of code. They're text files that are really small and easy to transfer around. So what happens when a cyber weapon developed by a military gets into the hands of everyone and they can use it however they want? Well, that's exactly what happened in 2016.
The DNC has called the FBI after a deleting attempt to hack into voter databases.
During the 2016 presidential election, the US was hit with a barrage of cyber attacks. This included the hacking of emails of the Democratic Party, a misinformation campaign on social media, and even an attempted hack of voter registration databases in several states. American intelligence agencies came together, they investigated, and they concluded that this was Russia. It was Russian hackers that were supported and directed by the Russian government itself. And the goal was to sabotage the American electoral systems.
The Russians were responsible for hacking the DNC.
This was like a frenzy here in the United States. Like, everyone was talking about it. It was a huge deal. But in the middle of all of this, a post quietly appears on GitHub from a user by the name of the Shadow Brokers. This was a few months before the election. It was a tense time for a lot of reasons. They claimed that they had super powerful cyber weapons from the American government's most elite cyber war group, the ones who created Stuxnet, and that they would sell these hacking weapons to the highest bidder. They would take their bids in Bitcoin. They released a few pretty impressive samples that actually looked pretty legitimate. They released an encrypted file that said contained more hacking weapons, but you needed the password for it. But they held onto it, posting every once in a while with a trickle of more information, and honestly, a lot of like bizarre rants on American hypocrisy and broken English that felt kind of intentional and caricatured. They didn't end up getting very much money, and it all looked fairly ridiculous. But then, out of nowhere, came this post.
Last week, the Shadow Brokers be trying to help peoples. This week, the Shadow Brokers be thinking, peoples.
They were getting pretty spicy, and indeed, they released this password, this weird password that they said was the password to that encrypted file that they had posted earlier. And when you put that password in the encrypted file, you discover that it is exactly what the Shadow Brokers said it was. 67 files that comprised some of the most sophisticated and dangerous cyber weapons that the NSA had ever created. And among them, the most powerful of the bunch, a tool called Eternal Blue, which allowed hackers to break into and control the Windows operating system, which is what most computers in this world use. Eternal Blue was like an open door. Back to our castle analogy, this was like a door into millions of castles, and the power to spy inside of the castle, to unlock any door, to steal the contents of the castle, to disrupt and break and destroy whatever you wanted inside of the castle, to lock people out of their own castle. Yeah, I mean, this was like a sophisticated military weapon that had just been duplicated and sent to anyone who had an internet connection. And what it meant was that the Shadow Brokers, in all of their like caricatured broken English, were actually legit. They had hacked in to our national security agency, our secret spy agency, and stolen the cyber weapons and sent them out to the entire world. Not just to other governments, but to anyone. So who are these shadow brokers and how did they do this? The answer, and the kind of scary thing about cyber war, is that we don't totally know. Experts think that Russia did this to send a very clear signal to the NSA and to the United States at large that, hey, we can do this. We have the power to break into your biggest secrets, and we will release them if we want to. So now, after 2016, we enter a new era of cyber warfare. Stuxnet was a big turning point. The shadow brokers and Eternal Blue is our next turning point. From here on, you see a new genre of more sophisticated, more powerful cyber attacks. Barely a month after the NSA's secret weapons leak out by the shadow brokers, a North Korean-linked hacking group uses them to deploy a virus that spreads to nearly every country on Earth within hours, locking up hundreds of thousands of computers, making them unusable, which halted hospital equipment, police departments, governments, and railways in over 150 countries. You're sitting there on your computer and this pops up, saying that your files are locked and that you can get them back, but, quote,
You have not so enough time.
close quote, and that, quote,
You need to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin to do so.
Malicious software has been taking computers hostage in an unprecedented worldwide outbreak.
this is called ransomware. Basically, you ransom the computer files and you have to pay. This happened in a matter of hours. It was only stopped because a 22-year-old researcher accidentally activated a kill switch baked into the code. So the bigger crisis was kind of diverted. But even still, in just that few hours, as WannaCry was spreading to 150 countries, it caused hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars of damage and economic loss. This showed us how powerful these NSA weapons could be in the hands of bad actors. And we learned this lesson once again when these same weapons were used by the masters of cyber warfare, Russia.
It's the single biggest attack on record.
It was June of 2017, the night before Ukraine's Constitution Day, when the Russian hacking group Sandworm deployed an attack that was similar to their 2015 electrical grid attack. But this time, they had the NSA weapons in their hands, so it was a whole new level. This one was called NotPetya. This thing was potent. It spread very quickly, and soon Ukrainians were seeing this scary screen on their computer that literally started with, quote,
Oops, your important files are encrypted. Perhaps you are busy looking for ways to recover your files, but don't waste your time. Nobody can recover your files without our decryption service.
It looked like another ransomware attack, saying that you have to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin in order to get your files released. But meanwhile, it was spreading super fast and wiping everything out in its path. It took down Kiev's mass transit system, airports, hospitals, and it rapidly spread through government agencies. Gas stations and power grids went down, credit cards stopped working, and it shut down almost every ATM machine in the capital. One person who was caught in the middle of this cyber attack described it as, life went very fast from what's new on Facebook to, do I have enough money to buy food for tomorrow? And it's a moment like this that we can really grasp just how fundamental this infrastructure is to our lives. And in this case, there was no kill switch. It was so viral that it spread beyond its target of Ukraine into other parts of the region, hitting the systems of a bunch of companies like FedEx or the shipping company Maersk. And soon tens of thousands of trucks were stuck for days with no computers to guide them. I mean, that's a lot of trucks. And many, many others. It affected tons of companies and agencies and systems, all because of this one virus. Unlike a missile or an invasion, cyber can hide behind this hackery-looking screen. This doesn't look like a state entity. This looks like a hacker doing a ransomware attack so they can make some money in Bitcoin. But that's not what this was. This was a coordinated, sophisticated attack by the Russian government using an American cyber weapon to make it more viral that caused an estimated $10 billion in economic loss and damages. And in the process, really blurring the lines of the rules of war, where usually like you know what a country did to you and you know how you're supposed to respond, and all of that creates this nice balance of like deterrence. That's kind of the lifeblood of stability in our global order. When you've got these like shadowy, like deniable attacks, it makes it way harder to know how to respond, to whom to respond, and like what's proportional. It just changes our view of conflict, which is why regimes like North Korea or Russia have leaned very heavily on this type of engagement, because as they become more isolated and as their military becomes less effective, this is a way for them to stay relevant, for their enemies to continue to fear them, because cyber is an actual weapon of war now. But let me just say something that is probably not obvious and might be surprising to you here at the end of the video, which is that the biggest threat in the future, the thing that's going to be the biggest part of cyber warfare, isn't going to be these big splashy, like shut down the electrical grid, doomsday scenario situations. Those might happen. Those are real threats. We need to prepare for them. But like any weapon of war, cyber is turning into a weapon that is being deployed subtly, that countries will use to get into the minds of their enemies. Like right now, we could be pretty certain that Russia and China have quietly infiltrated parts of our infrastructure systems. They haven't done anything with that, but they're probably there. At least that's what a lot of analysts and experts think. And that we have probably done the same to them. And that we're all just sitting there with our little time bombs put into our enemy's castle in case we need to use them. And we want our enemy to kind of know that we're there. There's this list that I've been looking at of all of the cyber attacks. CSIS, the think tank that I used to work at, documents these. And I was surprised that I hadn't heard of almost any of them, because they're small, but they're frequent. To me, this is the future of cyber warfare. It's not Stuxnet and WannaCry. It's these death by 1,000 pokes, psychological warfare, revealing to your enemy that you have capabilities to infiltrate their systems. And in that sense, cyber warfare starts to look a lot like nuclear deterrence, like a shadowy, hidden submarine with nuclear weapons floating through the ocean somewhere, capable of hitting your enemy. And your enemy knows that. They don't know where it is, but they know that it's there. And any calculation that they make on conflict takes into account that that weapon is there and could be used at any point. This is the weird paradox of war and peace and deterrence. That one of the forces that has kept our world stable and rid of great powers conflict since 1945 has been the fact that we have very powerful weapons all pointed at each other, and therefore we don't use them. Cyber weapons are going the way of that kind of deterrence. Hopefully, they'll never be used in the way that we fear, that the sort of doomsday scenario of like they shut down the electrical grid and they do a full-scale attack. Yes, there will continue to be these moments where viruses spread, and to avoid those, just update your damn software. I hate it as much as you do, but like two-factor authentication, we gotta do it. All this stuff, it's there for a reason, because we live in a new world and we should be prepared for that world. As for the war and the geopolitics of it all, I'm going to keep an eye on it, because one thing in all of this is certain. Cyber is here to stay. It is something we have to think about and understand if we're going to understand the future of war. You guys notice that this thing is here? Nick, the studio manager, who's right over there, brought this in and made it amazing. And every time I talk, it moves. And that is just freaking cool. Good job, Nick. Also, Alex, good job to Alex as well, who is the visual producer. I want to say a giant thank you for all of those who are here, and especially those who are a part of the newsroom, which is our Patreon community. We're doing this thing called independent journalism on YouTube, and it is exciting and fun, and it's a lot of work, and it is a lot of meticulous effort. So I'm very grateful for all of those who support monthly over on Patreon. For those who do support over on Patreon, you get access to my scripts. You get this behind the scenes vlog where you get to meet the team. You get to see some behind the scenes action of like what we're up to, including like setting up this set. We like filmed some of this, and like you get to see sort of how it works. You get to meet all of the like creative people who are a part of it. If you're looking for other ways to support the channel, we have a poster that has a bunch of maps on it. I don't know if by the time you're watching this, it is still in print. It could be sold out because we're only doing like 1,000, I think. So go click on the link in the description and see if it's still there, if that's interesting to you. We also have LUTs and presets, which is what we use to color our videos and our photos. And, oh, I don't know if you know this, Tom Fox, who composes all of our music, is now offering all of his music for free for you to use in your videos. That is the thing. You can now use all of the music that you heard in this video, which is like sick synth music that we developed just for this video. This is Tom Fox's synth. You can download it for free, you can use it for free. The caveat is if you use it and you monetize your videos, we will split the revenue 50-50. And if you want to license it for like one of your projects or something, like you're making a documentary, reach out to music@johnnyharris.ch and we license music for your projects. So that's cool. A lot of you don't know, but we launched a new channel. It is called Search Party. It is with my old Vox colleague, Sam Ellis, who is leading out on building this amazing new like news brand that explains geopolitics as well as global sports, which strangely intersect in more and more ways in our modern world. That is Search Party. It is live now. There's loads of videos you can go check out. They're similar to what I do here, but Sam has his own style, his own approach. Very good, concise journalism. So go check that out. Go subscribe. Support that channel. And I think that's it. So yeah, that's it for me. I guess I should say the thing that is strange. Subscribe to my channel. There's some real psychology around if you're not subscribed to the channel, let me tell you that here it matters. Like the subscriber number really matters, and it means that the video has a better chance of doing well, which is the lifeblood of everything we do here, is like getting this journalism out to as large of an audience as possible. So if you're not subscribed, click the button, and yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for watching. We've got a lot more videos coming up, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
This PC is the same price as a PlayStation 5 and competes, and in some cases even wins, in just about every game we tested, including some Sony first-party titles. But how is that even possible? I mean, gaming consoles dominate computers in price to performance, don't they? Well, sometimes. It's no secret that Sony and Microsoft are willing to sell their hardware at a loss in order to lock you into their ecosystem of accessories, subscription services, and software, all of which are sold for a profit. Over time, then, this chips away at your initial savings. But even with that in mind, I totally get why people go for it. When this thing launched, $500 barely got you a decent GPU, let alone a complete gaming box. Of course, there's no denying the power of the Sony exclusive machine. No PC could ever hope to compete with that model. At least, not for the first couple of years. But technology marches ever onward, and with competition and the used market heating up again, it is finally possible to match the price and performance and budget of a PlayStation 5 with a gaming PC. And ours is going to be powered by Seasonic, who sponsored this video even though this is a second-hand power supply. That'll make sense later. First, we have to answer some big questions. If our goal is to match the PlayStation 5's spec, we need a Ryzen 7 3700X with 8 Zen 2 cores and a 6600 XT RDNA 2 GPU. Guys, we don't want to match it. Look at the title. We want to beat it. That means making smart choices in the name of real-world performance, even if they might come with some compromises. Like this one. We've gone with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X, and it's got 2 fewer cores than the PlayStation 5. However, its Zen 3 architecture makes it the budget king when it comes to gaming right now. And it's only 65 watts, meaning that the stock heatsink that's included with it should be fine to keep it cool. That right there, that's savings. And it means we don't need an OP power supply in order to drive this thing. Boom! More savings. Now, it's worth noting that for a few bucks more, you could jump up to a 57 or 5800X, but we are on a pretty tight budget. Making our $500 target even more challenging is the fact that we wanted this to be a build that you could replicate at home. This isn't Scrapyard Wars. This is a guide. So we targeted prices that you will probably be able to find in about a week, whether it's on eBay or elsewhere. If you're patient and have a little luck on your side, there are better deals to be had out there. David found this box for just over 70 US dollars. Just remember to follow our guidelines for marketplace bargain hunting if you want to avoid getting scammed. We're going to have that video linked down below. The nice thing about going for AMD's AM4 socket is that there are 3 whole generations of motherboards that you get to pick from. But we noticed a few things you're going to want to watch out for. First, older generation boards turned out to cost almost the same as the newer ones, but had a much higher risk of incompatibility with newer chips. So make sure you double check the manufacturer's website. Second, for the difference in price, A-series chipsets are a no-no. You're going to want to go B-series in order to retain important features and get this typically higher build quality, even if it costs a few more dollars. So B550 and B450 ended up being the sweet spot where we found multiple candidates for around $40, including our ASRock B450 It's got 4 DDR4 DIMM slots for our 16 gigs of G-Skill Pride Z3600 megatransfer per second RAM, and it's even got respectable I/O, including USB Type-C. Now, it's not all roses. B450 is limited to PCI Express Gen 3 rather than Gen 4. That means that our system could struggle to get maximum performance out of future GPUs, and even today, this is a compromise next to one of the PS5's most advertised features. It's rockin' fast SSD. Our 1TB Samsung 970 EVO Plus runs at only about 3/5 of the speed of the PlayStation 5's storage. But it's a reputable, name-brand drive, and with most PC games being optimized for SATA SSDs or even hard drives, there will be next to no impact in our gaming performance, at least for now. So, smart compromise or dumb cut? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Speaking of cuts, we ended up saving some of our money by using the kind of case that might have some ragged edges on it, but can be found for free or for just a few bucks on a local marketplace. David, this thing is huge. Definitely Advantage PS5, which, with D-brand dark plates, comfortably fits in an LTD backpack. LTDstore.com. Your mileage may vary here. We got lucky-ish, and this was a pretty sick case before the trauma. But your goal is to pretty much find someone who's dumping old office PCs or gaming skeletons like this for next to, if not zero. If you're patient, you can often find ones with some cooling fans already installed in them to save a few more bucks. The only big thing to watch out for is ATX compatibility and clearance for any longer components. A Dremel can often solve compatibility issues, but you might not have one on hand. Fortunately, we won't need any of that for our X650 Gold power supply from today's sponsor, Seasonic. This particular unit came out almost 15 years ago, but is still going strong. And what's really cool is that even if you are buying secondhand, Seasonic stands behind their products hard. They actually have a transferable warranty, meaning that all you need to do is ask the seller for the original sales invoice, and you're covered for the entire original length. Not only that, but they recently upped their warranty on newer units from 10 years to 12 years. Absolute chads. Now, let's talk GPU. This one is going to be a little spicy. But hey, spice is the spice of life, right? We've gone with the Intel Arc A770. I know, guys. But compatibility has improved a lot, and it's got 16 gigs of GDDR6 memory all to itself, instead of having to share with the CPU. Now, people are starting to catch on to this thing, and by the time this video comes out, prices may have gone up a bit, but we had an opportunity, so we seized it. Also, we kind of wanted an excuse to see how far Intel has come for ourselves after a couple years of driver updates. It is worth acknowledging at this stage that we could have gone with a 6700 XT or a 3060 Ti at this price, but let's game. We're going to assume you have some kind of peripherals to use, so we didn't factor those into our budget. But otherwise, what you're looking at is an apples-to-apples comparison between our PS5 and our PS5 killer. We hope these fans don't work. To kick things off, we're going to be playing Doom Eternal, a game that runs at 120 FPS on the PlayStation 5, albeit at a lower resolution scale. So we've set our PC to run at 4K, but 68% resolution scale, and I gotta tell you, this is not looking good.
Not right.
Dude, this is basically unplayable. What kind of frame rate are you? Oh,
I'm hitting
wow.
120, baby.
Something is wrong. Ah, there's your problem right there. On the PC side, you might have to do a little bit of configuration, with the most important one being enabling above 4G decoding and resizable bar support. Particularly Intel Arc does not perform its best without rebar enabled. Oh yeah, that is more like it.
Oh yeah.
1% lows of 110, 115 FPS? It's amazing what a difference. Just making sure everything is configure-related properly could make. Dude, was this really 500 bucks though?
Yeah.
Man, Intel Arc. Not so bad after all, huh? It's hard to do an apples-to-apples comparison here because the image quality and the settings menus are not necessarily directly comparable. But what David and I can do is we can skip this cutscene and just, oh, I mean, that's interesting. My field of view is so much wider than yours.
Oh, I can change that.
Ooh, I don't have HDR on though.
Oh.
Let's turn that on.
Yeah.
Okay, my screen's not pretty, but what about my PlayStation?
Pretty freaking nice.
Do you like my PlayStation?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I like this case.
Okay, hold on, we're gonna figure this out. 1 second.
I can't think of anything more Windows than having HDR issues. So a huge advantage of playing on my PlayStation, if I plug in an HDR display, it's like, hey, let's calibrate. You're done. I once had a computer that had such a bad HDR issue that it was easier to reinstall Windows than to figure out the issue.
I'd call you a liar, but I believe you 100%.
I promise it's true.
The next thing we discovered is that HDR support on Intel Arc is a little bit spotty. It turns out AMD and NVIDIA have proprietary implementations for how the game calls for HDR to be enabled, and Intel, well, doesn't support them. It uses the standard DirectX implementation. So there's no denying that HDR is going to look better than SDR in any game that supports it. That really pops. However, now that we've got rebar enabled, performance is looking pretty darn good, and I'd say, who's got the edge when it comes to image quality?
It's pretty close.
It's really close.
Yeah, when I look at this cluster of rocks, the geometry and the detail and the textures looking, I think the textures are a little bit better on this, but the geometry detail is about the same.
Okay, how's it feel though? Here we go. The fact that I'm using an HDR display right now and not getting an HDR image is a bit of a downer, but most people do not have HDR displays. I'm getting anywhere from 115 to 120 FPS. I don't have frame view open. I should open that. I had frame view open one of the previous times before we were diagnosing the HDR thing.
Yeah.
And I'm getting 1% lows in the neighborhood of around 110, 115 FPS. It's really respectable. Here's something. You've definitely got the edge in loading times.
Yeah.
But with that said, this is a lot of PC for the money.
It's pretty impressive.
I would not be surprised if we managed to put together something like this as a one-off. You know, we negotiated everyone into the ground. But the fact that we were able to find, with pretty good consistency, parts like this available for this price, it's PC gaming back.
100%. Is the render scale at 100%?
Yep.
So this is actually better image quality than the PS5, because the PS5 would be 1500p upscale to 4K.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hitting 60.
I mean, pretty respectable. Once again, I couldn't help noticing this game looks a lot better in HDR though.
Yeah, those colors look a lot more vibrant.
This is freaking smooth. One of the big things that Intel has struggled with Arc is while their average frame rate might be good, the 1% lows are 1% very low. Here, I'm not getting that kind of stutter. This is a very, very smooth experience. And what does that game run at in performance mode? 60?
60.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a perfect 60. It'll drop from that frame rate once in a while, but it's a little more steady than this PC one. But with VRR, I think I would choose that extra sharpness. I was kind of surprised every time I tried upscaling, it lowered the performance. So
let's go quality.
That's 1440p, I think.
Yeah. My 1% lows are still the same. Given that, I probably wouldn't bother. But this is my first experience with Intel XeSS in quite a long time, and it looks really good.
Yeah. Does it look better than FSR?
Hard to say. I'd have to look at them side by side, but I don't see anything obvious that's jumping off the screen at me like, oh yeah, they're upscaling. It looks ugly. Even distant text, super sharp. Come on, PC, let's go.
Oh my gosh, your video did load first. Oh!
Let's see who makes it in game first. What? Oh, probably whoever developed the board.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, that's not fair. That's not fair though.
That's true.
Oh wow. What happened? Device driver hung.
What driver? Dave, I literally installed it today.
All right, 20 frames per second.
That's lower than it was before.
I also set it to 4K native.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Okay, but HDR is working in this game. Hey, there we go. I hope this is a 30 FPS game on PlayStation. Oh no. Okay.
Why is it crashing so much?
No, it's got this. It's got this, I believe. It has the power of PC. The power of PC compels you.
Next game!
For God of War, it runs at 1440p on the PS5, so we're doing some upscaling here, but what we can't figure out is what the heck is going on with HDR. It's not in display, it's not in graphics. Oh wait, screen calibration, really you guys? I think this might be the first game. New game?
Yeah.
I read that the HDR on the PC version of God of War is supposed to look a little better, in spite of this being a generation older TV than this one.
It does.
I think it does actually look a little better.
What's the details of everything? It's pretty similar.
I think it's a little less on PC.
Oh.
This upscaling looks a little better in the fine hairs of Kratos' beard. Yeah, it's a little softer there. I gotta be looking for it though. At TV distance, I wouldn't notice.
They look so similar, other than that this one's a little more pop.
What's your FPS?
60.
Let's go. Okay.
Go. Yeah. And go. Yeah. This is so satisfying. And go. Yeah. Get it, Kratos. And go. Crap, no, I messed up. The last most important one.
We're going to have links, by the way, to everything that we use down below. And on that note, if you're buying on eBay, congratulations, you've got great buyer protection. Make sure that you use it by testing everything that you buy before the listing goes up. Stress test, you know, memory for RAM and CPU, memory controller, 5, color marks for your GPU, and got it. Listen, all of the components on a related note, by the way, marketplaces can have better pricing because they don't charge the same seller fees, but they don't have any buyer protection, and unless the people happen to be bros, you are not getting your money back for faulty hardware. That means that you always want to test the parts before buying them, and if the seller is being weird about showing you the parts working, skip them. Just save yourself that die roll. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Also, always visually inspect the commonly damaged areas, like the pins on a CPU or on a motherboard. No denying the results.